Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. And as the team's trying to figure out where they should sit in terms of power rankings for the upcoming season, the Los Angeles Thieves guys reckon the LAG are going to implode before they get the chance to be particularly good. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, hitting that like button is the best thing you can do. To help this channel reach new people, please consider subscribing as well, if you have not yet already. Firstly, this from the Challenger side, incredibly, well, of course, West are returning. They're not like an official organisation, but Jintroid, 540, Hamza and Zaptius, that's going to be the squad under Wester for the upcoming season. Of course, the Wester squad of last year was the one that really turned things around in Challenger's early part of that year. Some people said, look, put them in the Pro League, see how things go. A relatively similar squad, what Method is teaming with right now, maybe they're going to be the 12th team. We'll talk about that a little bit more later today. Also, this from UYU, pretty much the only organisation, the last bastion of organisations in the Challenger scene here in Call of Duty. They welcome Rex, Phantoms, Yeez, and Hixie. So I wonder exactly how this works, right? Because I guess Mutineers and Ultra are giving Yeez and Hixie respectively some sort of salary anyway. So UYU can probably do okay on that front. And Phantoms, I'm pretty sure, like, sign an official contract with these guys, get everything in zone. So pretty cool to see some organisations at least still sticking around challenges. And, well, with some hope for the future, right? Because we do hope, and at least Center said, that there is some sort of potentially challengers versus pro team LAN coming up this tournament. Some sort of special mid-season tourney where some of the best challenger teams in the world get to play against the best pro teams. Now, if that is the case, of course, that does, well, lead some opportunity for exposure to some of these organisations that really they haven't had just straight up being in challengers the last couple of years, because pre-CDL, they could go to tournaments and make their run through the open brackets, get into the groups with the pro teams, and then make their name that way and, you know, make their way up the scene. Nowadays, it's not really possible, given the separation between, well, the challengers and the professional side of things at the present time. This also for Modern Warzone yesterday. I'm not sure if this is coming to regular Vanguard multiplayer, but I would wonder, like, if they're doing this for Warzone, why would they not do it for regular multiplayer? But Bloom as a mechanic, so the mechanic effectively where it's just inbuilt randomness, really, where when you fire your weapon, the bullet doesn't necessarily go exactly where you're aiming. There's like a spread that it can have. This isn't recoil. This is one bullet at a time. The bullets will go in a slightly different shot in or a different place. In CSGO, they call it first shot inaccuracy or whatever, which is actually a thing in that game as well. Now, of course, in Warzone, given the long lines of sight that you're working over, I guess this is more of a problem. Now, they're completely removing it seems, from Warzone and Vanguard weapons in Warzone as a whole. Now, I'm sure a lot of players would say, okay, why don't we just bring that to regular multiplayer, right? Like these features we've had the last few years, projectiles, like the Bloom, like, why not just go back to a regular multiplayer situation where the bullet goes where I aim it, and like, I don't have to worry about the bullet dropping over time and stuff like this, and all these things, I guess, that Warzone has brought to the party. Getting rid of this hopefully means they might get rid of it from multiplayer, and that's one of the only things really that's keeping the MP40 not necessarily in balance, because I think the MP40 is relatively well balanced with the auto and these type of weapons as well, but the fact of the matter is that if you get rid of the Bloom entirely, the MP40, that's one of the things that's preventing that weapon being dominant at long range, because the bullets are kind of random in that sense, not just the recoil. So as Arcitys says, I'm pulling out an MP40 on God. Now, as I say, I'm not sure if this is actually coming to regular multiplayer. I think it would be welcome if it does, so maybe they're listening and taking some steps in the right direction here, but of course, the fact that they're listening about Warzone is not really a massive surprise, and maybe not listening too hard about the CDL itself, because of course we looked yesterday about the pros relatively frustrated about not being listened to, it seems, in some of these CDL meetings, and Courage has some things to say actually in nature as well about some of these CDL meetings here in a couple of seconds. Firstly, of course, from the Slasher side, he's been going off on the main stage the last few days about the state of the game, his frustrations with the direction the CDL is taking, like, for example, some of this stuff in Control, right, not particularly happy about it, but of course Los Angeles Guerrillas with Slasher on the roster are going to be competing this upcoming year, and to be honest, this team on paper is, well, one of the best in the league. Now, the problem is there's a lot of teams that are considered one of the best in the league, right? So we've got Slasher, Gunless, Asim, and Huke. On paper, this team is nasty. Finally, it seems like LAG are putting together a competitive roster. But look, Slasher and Gunless, they have teamed with each other in the past. They had fantastic results on Rise during World War II, but then things fell apart really in terms of chemistry, and Slasher and Huke as a duo haven't really got on too well in there, well, tenure together as well. Back in Advanced Warfare, it was okay, I'm pretty sure briefly on Denial, but then into World War II, for example, on Envy right at the start of the year, didn't really work out too well. So Nature goes on to say here, and Envoy agrees with him in the episode that they come out with a couple of days ago, that in his perspective, he thinks this team has a lot of potential in a similar way to what Crimsix and Clayster kind of have. Like, Nature even reckons the friction might raise up between those guys over at the subliners, but certainly of the Los Angeles Guerrillas, he reckons that, LAG, they have a lot of potential on that roster, but they're going to implode in terms of chemistry before they actually get good. And Envoy says, I think that's a realistic possibility.
Yeah, it's going to be a rough one, but I'm very glad that you didn't pick Clay and Crim. It's kind of like the LAG roster to me. I think that roster can be really, really, really good, but I think they're going to tear each other apart before it happens.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what annoys me as someone who is a fan of the CDL, and I don't really get like outside of LA Thieves playing. I'm just tilted that the game's been out for 2 weeks now, and what have I been able to watch? I've watched. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to. All I'm saying is it should be pretty obvious if I work on this thing from an internal perspective, that when there's a lot of hype around something, you build on it. And I've watched 2 lit-ass Halo tournaments that have got me so hyped, and I can't. I don't even know. Tomorrow, the biggest thing for Vanguard is me and you guys playing a Pro Sim 5v5 S&D tourney where like everyone needs to use a different weapon.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
sorry.
They have this whole like theory that they don't want the teams to play together until the season starts because you don't want to
February.
Like,
who cares?
they don't want to spoil it.
My blood's gonna boil. I'm sweating. Sorry.
But like, why not we need like preseason tournaments. Throw cash on the line. Like, let us all play together. We can't play anything for 3 months.
Hey, listen. I know that this league got a lot of money in it. Pay me a handsome consulting fee. I'll tell you everything you need to do.
I'm sure you're gonna be their first phone call, Jack.
And I'm humble.
You know what? I'll broker the contract for you too. I'll take 20%.
Thank you.
No, but I completely agree with Jack. I don't know if actually legally if I can be fined, but it absolutely makes no sense. I didn't even know this was a rule. I got to go to more of these owners meetings, clearly. But I cannot believe, like, Halo, what Jack just said about Halo is completely true. The game literally came out a week ago.
So I guess there was a world in which Envoy actually was going on to Los Angeles Guerrillas, like it could have happened. Like, I'm sure he was feeling his options when they were thinking about what SMGs they want to bring on. Of course, he goes to Thieves in the end, and he's saying, look, even Clayster and Crimsix as a duo, like, is that going to work out perfectly right? We know the chemistry between those guys probably shouldn't be too much of an issue, but who knows, right, if they get on each other's nerves, things could break down there, even though they haven't really done when they've teamed up in the past so far. Dallas Empire, for example, but maybe things will change this season. And then, of course, you've got Los Angeles Guerrillas, where, to be honest, that potential of the team to implode is definitely a real possibility, I would argue. Just wanted to look at this real quick before we kind of address what Courage had to say, because this is Gunless's history as a player. Now, you guys may well notice, like, there are some serious patterns here. Now, I don't think the pattern will necessarily repeat itself going into this season. I think Gunless has certainly matured as a player, and Gunless and Slasher talked about this, right? Like, yes, they have their differences back in the day, but they've kind of got over that, and they've talked with each other and then said, okay, we're going to smooth out these differences, like, be adults about it, basically, and get on with business this season, and, not let these issues kind of come to the fore again. But if the team doesn't exactly win things, then, I'm sure the frustrations and the chemistry and the friction might start to be called into question. But you guys can kind of see back in Infinite Warfare when Gunless first came on the scene, won the Atlanta Open, and then after a few events when they stopped doing so well, they came top 6 of the playoffs, he decides to bench himself, goes to FaZe. A similar thing happened really in Black Ops 4 when, like, the team had a good result at Fort Worth on LG. The team then falls off, then he, like, benches himself, refuses to play, this type of stuff. I'm sure you guys remember the story if you've been around a while. World War II was really the only season where they had a great run of things until towards the end of the title, really, where they came top 16 at the World Championship. That wasn't ideal for them at all, and the team broke apart after that one. So Gunless and Slasher definitely had good results, but it's not out of the question. Even at Chicago Huntsman, right, in the Modern Warfare season, Gunless comes in, they win an event early on in London, they fall off, and then Gunless, the friction and the chemistry starts to break down, and all of a sudden he's out of the team and not playing for the rest of the year. So this is always the concern with Gunless. This past season it was fine on Seattle, but they didn't win anything, so maybe they didn't even get to those heights to then fall down from where the Gunless teams tend to disintegrate. So if LAG do really well early on and then they fall off, that's where the questions will start to be raised. I don't really think that's going to happen, though. I think they should be a solid team most of the season, but I think it's tough to say they're like a top 3 team in the game given the strength and depth of some of these other rosters right now. This was the other thing that Courage was talking about, though, with regard to some of these tournaments, right, in the early part of this title, because the problem is, and Envoy was talking about it as well, that the CDL doesn't want any of these pro teams to play against each other before the season begins, which is like one of these things that, okay, why is that even need to be the case? Why can't we just see these players play against each other on a level like just like Halo has done? And Courage is like, look, why do we have to wait all this long until February for the pro teams to actually be seen playing against each other? Why can't they just do that a little bit earlier on? To me, seems like a bit of a no-brainer. It's certainly a frustrating one, but I mean, still, at the end of the day, like, what can we do about this, right? Hopefully, the CDL's listening to some of the feedback. I'm sure the pro players have made their opinions very clear, but in fairness, I think a lot of it comes down to the owners, to be honest, because the owners of the teams are the ones that, like, they should really have the say, right? The players can say what they want, like, it might not do too much, like a Parasite saying the players should boycott the league or whatever. In reality, that's not going to change all that much. But if the owners all come together and say, look, this is what we want, like, this is why, like, we're frustrated with XYZ, then the CDL realistically has to listen to the people that have paid $25 million, you would think at least, to get into the league. I guess one of the problems is that only a few of these guys, Nadeshot, Hex, Hastro, for example, like, are particularly engaged in the actual history of competitive Call of Duty. A lot of the ownership groups, I'm sure, just like, you know, VC type funds, really, that don't really know too much of actually what's going on, like what the issues with the game are, all these kind of questions. They just look at the bottom line. So maybe that's some of the issues we're having, but I definitely agree when Nadeshot said he should attend more of these owners meetings, because probably that would help our case to some degree in terms of the scene. Just wanted to finish out with a couple of things. This first even Proto, of course, substitute for Seattle Surge previously for the last couple of years. My brain has become smooth on Bacage. What game are you playing, he says. This I thought was insane. At 239 to 232, he drops 78 eliminations. Like, what game, honestly? Like, Doug has 54 elims, Zinx has 59 elims, he has 78 elims, and I mean, he's playing up against, you know, Rabby, Archives, and the guys over here, but I just thought this was absurd. Like, 78 eliminations on Bacage. Like, if this map actually is played this year, we're going to have some insane stat lines, I'm sure. And just to kind of reminisce a little bit on some previous Call of Duty action for the last several years, you guys might remember this one from, I forget if this is a World Championship or exactly what this was, but it was Ionitis up against Units, and this is probably the greatest individual search and destroy performance in any map that I've probably ever seen. Simp, I'm pretty sure, went 12-0 or 14-0 in 6 rounds only. They 6-0'd Units, and it was just funny because Simp was completely dominating them. At this point, he's like, well, okay, no, he's 12-1, I think. Yeah, so he goes 14-1, I think, in 6 rounds, which is just ridiculous. But, you know, he's dominated all these rounds so far. He brings the sniper over to the A site here on Arsenal and just snipes down 3 without even a care in the world. Like, this is just disgusting, to be honest. And also this, on this day, yesterday, 4 years ago, I guess, back in 2017 for the start of the World War II season, Team Cannibal were crowned CDL Dallas champions. So this was Theory, Accuracy, Kenny, and Sheena, of course, Kenny winning his first event right here. And that's kind of the thing looking back on this. You think, wow, like, you know, it just seems like that these previous seasons, they had events so early in the year compared to now. Or like, these events were already happening right when the game came out like a few years ago, and nowadays we have to wait so long. But very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hitting that like button tells the YouTube gods this is a good video, and it's like you should see it as well, and help grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always, take care, and I will see you next time.